if you as a student don't know the rules, you don't know how to proceed, and you can't create a realistic timeline for yourself. And your handbook will lay out the rules on how many people do you need for a dissertation committee. My students, they need 5. 3 of them have to have a regular faculty status at the university, and then 2 could be external. Those are all checks that have to be done. And if my student doesn't know the rule, or me as an advisor don't know the rules, my student will be at a disadvantage. Look, I've coached hundreds of doctoral students, and if I had to pick one of the biggest mistakes doctoral students have been making, it has nothing to do with writing. You know what that one mistake is? Not knowing your program rules and regulations and guidelines. This seems like something that is fairly easy to deal with, right? Like understanding your handbook and things like that. Yet we continue to see doctoral students that come to us and that we hear at various workshops that we're doing that consistently say they don't know the rules, regulations, and the things that are shared in their program handbook. And not knowing those things can be devastating to the doctoral journey. So, on today's episode, we're going to talk about how knowing your doctoral program rules saves time and stress. For those of you just tuning in, my name is Dr. Ramon Goings. I'm founder of Done Dissertation and host of From ABD to PhD show. Our whole goal at Done Dissertation is to help you, the doctoral student, write and defend your dissertation in record time. And if you're someone who needs more support, you can look into today's sponsor of this episode, which is the Done Dissertation Velocity Coaching Program. And to learn more about what we do to help you get to from where you are right now to the finish line of finishing your dissertation, you can learn more about it at www.velocitydissertation.com, or you can scan the QR code that is here on your screen to schedule a complimentary consultation so we can help see where you are and see how we can support you or get you access to other resources that can get you to where you need to be in your doctoral journey. But on today's episode, we are going to talk about all things about how knowing your program rules saves time and stress. Look, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a time of season, but we've heard from a lot of students when we ask them about, what their process looks like, and they say, I don't know. And the first question that we typically will ask, well, do you have a copy of your handbook that we could take a look at to kind of give you some insight? And they're like, ooh, I don't even know where that is, or I got to search around for it. That can't be the case anymore. And so when we're thinking about how knowing your doctoral program rules saves time and stress, the first way it happens, and the first thing I want you to consider is that you have to read your doctoral program handbook. Look, I don't care what you do. If you're watching this episode, pause this thing. Pause it right now. Hit the pause button real quick. What you're going to do, and actually, before you pause, I'll tell you kind of what you need to search for is, depending on your university, there's somewhere either on your program's website, either in a portal that's for you as a university student. There's somewhere that you should be able to access a program handbook. And for whatever reason your doctoral program does not have a handbook, if your program's within a potentially a college, so like say the College of Engineering, college education, whatever, there might be a handbook at that level that kind of guides all doctoral programs. Or if that doesn't have one, you're not housed like in that type of hierarchy, it might be at a graduate school level. There's somewhere where there's a handbook that has some rules and expectations about the process. Trust me, it is somewhere, because it is guiding the process and what you're going through with you out with not even knowing it. So make sure that you take a look to see what that program handbook looks like, because you don't want to do all this work to write a dissertation and recognize that how you've been approaching the process is incorrect, but it's all spelled out in your handbook. Again, this particular episode is going to be short and sweet because we keep seeing it. And I just thought, and Renee brought this up at one of our meetings, like, hey, why don't you talk more about what we're seeing when we get to talking to folks about velocity who really haven't had a good firm understanding of what their program handbook, outlines for them. Even for many of y'all, it's going to outline the courses that you can take or how you take them. If you have more of a structured format in terms of you maybe you're in a cohort type of doctoral program, it's going to lay out all the rules. You need to know the rules of engagement now. So what you're going to do today is you're going to find the handbook. And if you say you found your handbook, let me know in the comments. Drop me a note because I want to hear from folks, and knowing that you have secured and found your handbook and that you actually read the handbook. It has so many great things in there. A list of all the faculty usually, program and policies. What happens if you have an incomplete? What if happens if you need to take a class at another institution? Like all the rules and regulations will be somewhere in someone's handbook, and just take the time to find and then check it out. And so make sure you do that. Now, the second place where I want you to kind of focus your energy, and then how knowing your dissertation program rules will save you time and stress, is that the second piece you're going to do is actually, I want you to start meeting regularly with your advisor to discuss expectations. Because your advisor is someone who's also abreast of this conversation around the handbook. Some will be better than others. And trust me, I'm trying to work through that in my new book called The Finish System, a dissertation chair's guide to supporting doctoral students from start to defense. So I'm trying to do my part to help faculty to kind of learn, in terms of setting those expectations and making sure one of the things is like make sure you have a copy of the handbook if it's not already, automatically given to you. So I'm trying to do my part on faculty. So it will be spread in terms of who knows what. I've seen this across the board with a number of our clients. But you need to make sure that someone, in particular your advisor, either has access to the handbook or is keeping you abreast of what's happening in terms of any guidelines, rules, changes that you need to know that will impact your journey. Some of those things are like sometimes due dates get changed, or the fact that, hey, if you want to finish and defend your dissertation, and let's say you want to graduate in May of this year, that the actual regulation in our department is that every faculty member gets 2 weeks to evaluate the document. Some departments, your program handbook might say every faculty member, like when we're sending out your dissertations, you have to provide the committee 4 weeks to review. You not knowing that one rule will trip you up, and that's something that you and your advisor should be talking about so that these rules and regulations don't creep up and impact your process. I've seen it too many times where, not having those conversations will actually slow you down. It could lead to a extreme delay in the actual doctoral journey. So just know that that is something that could be a part of your process, and I don't want it to impact you. And so just making sure by all costs what you do, please make sure that you are meeting regularly with your advisor to discuss expectations. They will lay things out. And then for a number of you all, you're getting ready to defend your dissertations. That's another spot that you needed to have conversation with them about in terms of what are their expectations for you with the actual dissertation defense. Just take it from us. We work with hundreds of doctoral students all the time, and we see it across the board, across discipline, across institution type. Now, the next component of how, thinking through and knowing your doctoral program rules is going to save time and stress is that you have to make sure that your timelines reflect your program and university guidelines. Again, I'm coming back to this example. Let's say May is our goal. We want to graduate and walk in May. Let's say graduation is, I'm using my university, I think graduation is May 20th. I know my doctoral students, if they want to graduate in the May 20th graduation, in order to do so, their dissertation has to be into the graduate school. It doesn't have to be accepted by them yet, but it has to be the complete document. It has to be into the graduate school by May 1st. Now, you want to give a little bit of time in terms of, them to be able to do any edits that might come back from the actual final defense. So typically for me, I would say let's at least give yourself, if we can, 7 days. So now we got to back in that. So maybe we're around like April the 23rd or so, give or take. Or they say the 22nd, 23rd, somewhere in that realm. That's for the actual defense date. Now, at our university, they have to actually have the document approved by, we call it dissertation readers. So 2 people on the committee serve as the reader. They have to approve the dissertation to be able to defend it 2 weeks prior to the defense date. So if our defense date is, say, April the 24th, we have to go 14 days before that in terms of when that document has to be signed off on by the 2 readers. Now we're at roughly somewhere around, I don't know, let's see, 17. Yeah, we're somewhere around like early April, right? We might need to be around the 10th or so, right? So let's say the 10th of April is our target deadline when that document needs to be signed off on. Now, those people who are going to sign and say, yes, this is ready for defense on April the 10th, they need time to read it. So let's say now we want to give them 3 weeks to read. I usually try to give them 3 weeks to read, 3 to 4 weeks. Now that's going to push us back to around March the 10th. Do you see now how this adds up? So if you had your idea that you're just going to defend and walk in May, but you hadn't considered all the timelines and hadn't taken into the account whatever your university guidelines are, it will drastically impact your process. So imagine my students, if they just said, I'm going to defend, and their, excuse me, their target date to defend was May the 12th. They could defend on May the 12th, but just know they're not going to be able to walk into May 20th graduation because the deadline is May the 1st. So as you're approaching some of these things, you have to consider that. I would give another example of why you need to know the rules. At my university in particular, what happens is our whole system, our state system, is that when a student is going to defend their dissertation proposal, as soon as they defend their proposal, we have what's called like a nomination of dissertation exam committee. By signing that document, it starts a 6-month clock for the student. So literally the student could not defend, even if they finished their whole thing after their proposal. Let's say they finished their dissertation, the write-up and everything within 2 months after their proposal defense. By our policy, they cannot defend a dissertation until 6 months from that date. So if I had delayed them, and let's say we defended their proposal in I don't know, January of the year, and I didn't have them sign off for whatever reason until March, that puts on extra 2 months for them of defending their final dissertation. That might push them out a whole another semester and a half. So these are things that we have to constantly think of. But if you don't know the rules, you don't know how to proceed. Even something like, in your handbook will lay out the rules on how many people do you need for a dissertation committee. My students, they need 5. 3 of them have to have a regular faculty status at the university, and then 2 could be external. Those are all checks that have to be done. And if my student doesn't know the rule, or me as an advisor don't know the rules, my student will be at a disadvantage. And so I'm sharing this example from my own case. I do this in practice every day as a faculty member. If you as a student don't know the rules, you don't know how to proceed, and you can't create a realistic timeline for yourself. And I just had a conversation with a student who was looking to join us, and we were talking about this, and their timeline was very quick. And I was saying that I'm cool with you having such a sped up timeline, but does your university guidelines offer you to actually write your dissertation that quickly? And the answer was no, because they have certain procedures. So again, without knowing the procedure, my student was going in with the idea of what they should do, which was great, but it didn't follow the procedure and guidelines on the university, so it wouldn't work. This is why it's important for you to recognize and know these things ahead of time. Don't wait until it's too late. A lot of times you will miss out on opportunities because you don't understand the timelines that reflect, the real of what's going to happen at in your university context. And this can look very different by university. Like we have some universities that we work with for doctoral students where they don't have a dissertation defense. What they do is actually get the document approved by the committee members. They say, yes, this is good. And they literally have the document signed off on by the committee. That's it. No defense presentation. Whereas other places have a whole intricate procedure on defenses. So like these things will vary, but you have to be, as a student, need to know the rules. Don't wait for your advisor to tell you what the rules are, because you will wait for a long time sometimes if they are not proactive in this. So I'm just letting you know now, because they will hold you to the rules regardless of not if you went to download the document. So make sure that you know the rules. And then lastly, what I want you to consider is that you have to, if you're trying to, and recognizing how knowing the rules, the doctoral program rules will save you time and stress, is that I need for you to start being, and you're probably already doing this, but I wanted to send a reminder, read your email faithfully to get updates. Sometimes these policies change. Universities are ever evolving in how they're doing things. Like, just to give an example, when I earned my doctorate in 2015, the idea of a virtual defense was unheard of. That was something that didn't happen. It wasn't a real thing. It just didn't happen. I attended and did my first virtual defense for a colleague. I was on their committee in 2019, so before COVID, but still, that was the first time I had been on a virtual defense, particularly for doctoral programs that were not already online, right? Online programs is a different setting, but I'm thinking about our more traditional brick and mortar type university settings. Now, there's virtual defenses all the time, but it's a policy that changed. Once COVID hit, a lot of universities had to shift in terms of how they did dissertation defenses. Like at my university, it went from more of an in-person thing to now we do them remotely. Some universities now, because of, they kept the policy open, you have the option to do them virtually or hybrid or all in person. Now what I'm seeing, like I just sat on my first hybrid dissertation defense. Shout out to Dr. Sunji. Congratulations on defending, right? And so when I went to his defense, I was in person. All the committee who were local to the university were in person in the room. And 2 of his committee members were outside the university. Outside the university. They were actually on WebEx on the screen. My first hybrid type of dissertation defense. So like these things are ever evolving, but these are all things that are sitting on your email. These policies change. If you're not keeping up with the email, what's happening at the university in terms of the policies, you might miss out on some opportunities that can get you closer to your finish line. Again, these things are rapidly changing in terms of, because technology keeps increasing and speeding up in terms of what it can do. And so a lot of things will look different for you than it looked for me, 10 years ago now. So just know that because the landscape is ever evolving, you need to stay abreast of what's happening. Check your email. I know this may sound so simple, like, why is he talking about this? But promise you, I got students they may not check their email and they're missing out on so many great opportunities by not being up to date on what's happening. And so I share this because we just heard this over and over again. And Renee really, shout out to Renee, thought this would be a great idea to talk with you all more about knowing the rules and regulations. And this is not only for you at the dissertation phase, but this is for my first year doctoral students as well. If you want to know what you're going into, you need to know the rules and expectations. So take the time to download your program guide. Also, the university may have a dissertation guide around formatting. Like, these things are policies that are being expected for you to know, and may not be told to you, say, hey, I need for you to download this so you know the rules. They may not say it to you like that. And so you need to know and be aware of these so that you can navigate the process successfully. And if you're someone that might need help figuring these things out and getting more intensive support, I would welcome you to apply to our Velocity coaching program. It's for doctoral students who are actively writing their dissertation. If you are in a coursework and writing your dissertation as part of your doctoral program, I know some programs are structured like that. We can also support you. We will talk about how that looks slightly different for you in our program, but we can also support you in that realm. And so if you're someone working on your dissertation and you need help and you want that structured support to get you from where you are to the finish line, I would invite you to apply to the Velocity coaching program. You can learn more about our program at www.velocitydissertation.com. And again, it's www.velocitydissertation.com. I'm so excited for you all, and I really want you all to know the rules and regulations of your program. There's no need for you to go through this without knowing these things, and so make sure that you look, because the next time I see you at the workshop or conference, I want to hear about what you know about those rules and regulations. And so if you went and downloaded it, let me know in the comments. And then the last thing you can do for me that would be ever so helpful is that if you know someone who can benefit from this video, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, notification bell. And if you're watching it somewhere else, please hit the share button on Facebook or LinkedIn, wherever you're watching, and share it with 2 to 3 colleagues and tag them on a post that you know that this could be helpful because they don't know the rules and regulations of their doctoral program, and you want them to make sure that they are on top of things. And so with that said, my name is Dr. Mo Goings, founder of Done Dissertation and host of From ABD to PhD show. And I wish you all the best of your dissertations. And until next episode, until next time, I wish you a done dissertation. Take care.